Hello everyone and welcome back to another Leaks 4 video. And today it is my absolute pleasure to bring to you what has been one of the most requested, most anticipated videos that I have been getting comments asking for basically since the very first couple of videos. And that of course is a Kandarin deep dive. Kandarin is absolutely massive and there is a lot of content for us to cover, so get your monkey backpacks ready because this is going to be a long one. Kandarin is huge. I really do mean it. Not only are you getting access to Catherby, Camelot, Sears Village, the Fishing Guild, and the Ranging Guild, Artie, but you'll also get the Trinome Stronghold, the Barbarian Outpost, Piscatoris and the Hunter area over here, as well as Trinome Village, Yanil, and the entire Feldip area. Plus, you'll even be getting Atoll. That's all included in one region. This means that Kandarin has not one, not two, but 3 achievement diaries all linked to the Kandarin unlock. Completing the easy Artie diary will actually give you a monastery teleport, and this can really come in handy if you're using like last recall just to have a very easy way to restore your prayer points and then last recall back to whatever you were fighting. In addition, completing the Artie diary also increases the amount of coin pouches you can have while pickpocketing mobs. So this is really going to help when you just want to turn your brain off and pickpocket those Artie knights. Moving on, you'll have access to the Kandarin Diary. Completing the hard Kandarin Diary will increase the chance of your bolts to use their enchanted bolt effects by 10%. And so this means that if you had a 10% chance, it would go up to 11%. That's an extra 10%. And that does get doubled with the ranged relic if you're planning on running it, which can just give you a little bit more damage on top of your build. And finally, you'll also have the Western Provinces Diary, although to fully complete this, you would also need Tyrannwyn because there are some tasks that are over in the Elf area. Completing the hard Western Provinces Diary will allow you to use Elite Void, although that will also require Asgarnia on top of Tyrannwyn and Kandarin. But you'll also get access to a private Red Chinchampa area, which is not going to have a lot of competition, honestly. So that can be a really nice way to get all of your hunter experience without having to deal with other people coming to steal your chins. And the Elite Western Provinces Diary will also make it so that 2 Chompies spawn whenever you're hunting them, which is really going to speed it up. And just keep in mind that along the way, you're going to be getting tons of experience lamps from completing these diaries, and those are all going to get your boosted experience rates, so you could be dumping like 500,000 on a skill super easily. Kandarin unlocks some of the best Slayer tasks in the entire game for Iron Man. This includes Black Demons, which is usually a really bad task, but because you're in Kandarin, and because you're going to have Monkey Madness 2 unlocked, you'll actually be able to take on demonic gorillas. You can find these in the north part of the Gnome Stronghold. Just make sure to pay respect to our queen before you head over there. So while this cave does have tortured gorillas, I wouldn't really bother with these. What you're really looking for is the demonic gorillas, which have a singles area as well as a multi area if you wanted to fight them in multi-combat, although that is a little bit tougher. These guys will give you Zenyte pieces, which can be used to make some of the best jewelry in the entire game. For melee, you'll get your Amulet of Torture. For ranged, your Necklace of Anguish. Magers will get the Tormented Bracelet, one of the best pieces you can get, and it gives you a 5% magic damage bonus. And you'll also be able to make a Ring of Suffering, which is a great defensive option. And you might not have access to a lot of good rings anyway based on your regions. Just be careful if you have Production Master that you don't turn your entire inventory into Ring of Sufferings. Now, the Demonic Gorillas also drop Ballista, and a lot of people have been asking me about that. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be that good even with the ranged relic. You are going to be attacking twice as fast, but 2 times bad is still kind of bad. But if you're looking for a fun build, I think a lot of people just like the ballista just to have fun with like a 3-tick ballista. And unfortunately, I do think the javelins are not saved by the 90% ammo conservation, although I can't confirm that. One thing to note about demonic gorillas is that they do require 2 combat styles, as they're going to alternate between what they're immune with. So you're not just going to be able to hit these with your on style. You're going to need to have at least one other combat style to make them swap prayers. Fairy Ring AKQ will take you over to the Piscatoris Hunter area, as well as the Kraken Cave. Kraken are another great Slayer task that's unlocked exclusively with Kandarin. Kraken dropped the Trident, which is one of the best magic weapons to really get things going, and is very likely going to be the weapon that you take into raids if you're going with a magic setup. In the Inner Sanctum, you'll be able to challenge the Kraken boss itself, so make sure to bring some fishing explosives so that you can just toss them in the whirlpool and get things going. This boss is generally only killed with Mage. I believe you can use range, but you do like very, very little damage. But there might be some way to incorporate Ruby Bolt specs to possibly get that done. But honestly, it's like a really AFK easy boss. You basically just attack the Kraken and let your magic damage go off. Kraken drops the Kraken Tentacle, which is used to upgrade the Abyssal Whip into the Abyssal Tentacle. Or you can save up 10 Kraken Tentacles to upgrade your Trident to the enhanced version, which can store way more charges than just the regular version. And there's usually a task for this, so you might want to just start saving up. Next up, taking the Fairy Ring BKP will put you south of Castle Wars and just next to the Smoke Devil dungeon. And just make sure you have a Slayer helmet or a face mask along because you're gonna need it. Here you'll find Smoke Devils, which are one of the fastest Slayer tasks in the entire game, and you're able to burst or barrage them or use chins for them to do just a crazy amount of AoE damage. In addition, they drop the Occult Necklace, which gives you a 10% magic damage bonus. And that's basically the highest percentage magic damage you can get on a single piece of gear. So you're definitely going to want to try to go here if you're looking for a mage setup. You'll also be able to take on the Thermonuclear Smoke Devil, who is the boss version of the Smoke Devils. And as you can tell, I'm quite the expert from the last leagues. This guy drops the Smoke Battle Staff, which gives you a 10% damage bonus when casting from the standard spellbook. And while this guy is pretty easy to kill with ranged, magic or ranged, if you are going for melee, you're going to have to use the redemption method. Basically, the Thermonuclear Smoke Devil just hits you really fast and does a lot of damage. But if you're always using redemption, then when you pass a certain low health, it's just going to heal you back up, and you're just basically using prayer potions as a food source. So it's a little bit annoying, but it's still super easy. One of the most simple bosses to just decimate. And you might be able to tell by now that Kandarin is really damn good if you're planning on going for Mage. They don't have the Wizards Guild here for nothing. If you wanted to get your magic skill cape, you're going to need to go Kandarin as well. And luckily, you'll also have access to one of the best rune shops in the entire game. This place is stacked. So let's just have a quick discussion of, is Kandarin necessary if you're planning on going for Mage? So between the 10% of the Occult Necklace and the 5% of the Tormented Bracelet, that means you're going to be getting 15% magic damage bonus from Kandarin. Keep in mind that Tunic Shadow from the desert, which I know a lot of people are planning on using, will triple the bonus of all of your equipment and actually quadruple that specifically in the Tombs of Amasket. This means that 15% damage bonus is actually going to go up to 45% because of the Shadow. And that's a lot. Just to put it in perspective, each piece of the Ancestral Robes only gives 2%, which would be tripled to 6% each, or 18% for the whole set. And the Imbued Wildy Cape only gives you 2% as well, and that would be 6% with the tripled bonus. So full Ancestral Robes and the Wilderness Cape would only give you 24% compared to just the Tormented Bracelet and the Occult Necklace giving you 45% bonus. So yeah, Kandarin is pretty strong. Now, does this mean that you have to go Kandarin if you want to play around with the Shadow? And the answer is no, but you're looking at about a 20 to 25% DPS loss. That's just what I've calculated using a number of scenarios. It might be a little bit more or less, but roughly 20 to 25% is what you should expect. And as it turns out, going Kandarin without a Shadow is actually stronger for a Mage route than going for a Shadow without the Kandarin jewelry to back it up. In addition to that, you're already getting the Trident, which we talked about. And that can actually do more damage even than Ancient Magics. You'll also get the Warp Scepter from Warped Creatures. This is new with the Path of Gluffery quest. And you may also be wondering about Iban's Staff, which is a very, very strong early game weapon. However, this would require Tyrannwin as well to access the Underground Pass. Or you could have the Fremenic area auto-unlocked, which would auto-complete Underground Pass for you. So just have one of those two options, and suddenly you'll be able to use that at like level 50 magic. That's actually a 5-tick weapon, so it really pops off. So I can't make the choice for you whether or not you want to go Kandarin or whether you can skip it. But as always, pick what you enjoy doing. You're still going to be doing crazy amounts of damage, even without the extra damage bonus. So don't think you're like ruining your account just because you're choosing not to go Kandarin, despite what other people might tell you. Now, over by the Barbarian Outpost, you'll find Otto's Grotto, as well as the Ancient Cavern. This is where you'll fight Mithril Dragons, which is another Slayer task unlocked with Kandarin. These guys drop the Dragon Full Helm, so good luck going for that. These guys are found just west of Yanil, on the way towards Castle Wars, and they're very easy to kill. It's a pretty easy Slayer task to do in general. And you can also multi-cannon them with the Dwarf multi-cannon, as you can see here. And finally, you'll also get Chaos Druids. These guys can be found over in the Chaos Druid Tower just north of Ardi, or you can find them north of Yanil in the Yanil Agility Dungeon. This is also where you'll find Salarin the Twisted, who drops Sinister Keys. These can be used to open up a chest that gives you a ton of herbs. So if you wanted to get some herbs early, you could try killing this guy instead. They also come clean, so you won't even need the herb lore level to clean them yourself. As for bosses, well, that's actually it. That wraps up combat. There are no other bosses except the Slayer bosses that I've already talked about. So for many people, this might be a negative. You might be like, oh, well, there's really not that much aspirational content to do in the end game. But that's kind of what makes Kandarin a very unique zone. It's kind of like a support region in that it's a very, very strong early game engine to really get your account going and unlock a lot of things for your account. But then in the end game, there isn't as much bosses or PVM to really engage with. However, if you're already picking zones that are very dense, maybe they have raids in them, or you're going to Asgarnia that has the God Wars dungeon and Nex, this might actually be okay, because if all three of your regions are very, very dense with PVM, you might be spread a bit thin, especially if you're going for like a lot of points and you're trying to get all the tasks completed. So while a lot of people will kind of dismiss Kandarin as just being like a beginner zone and that really falls off late, that could also work in your favor, and it might be okay to just have a zone that you don't engage with a lot past the early game and instead focus your time into doing raids or doing some of the longer grinds in other areas. Next up, let's talk about quests, and you get a really big one unlocked with Kandarin, Monkey Madness 2. So while you won't be able to complete like the Grand Tree or Tree Gnome Village or Monkey Madness to actually get the experience rewards, that entire quest line is automatically completed with Kandarin, meaning you'll also be able to receive all the benefits from having that whole quest line unlocked. This means access to gliders, the spirit trees, as well as the Royal Seed Pod, which is a really useful one-click teleport that brings you right here to the Tree Gnome Stronghold. It's close to a bank, it's close to the Spirit Tree. I mean, it's just a really good, nice and useful teleport to have. And you'll be able to buy it right away with the zone unlocked, so pretty useful. Now, as we talked about earlier, having Monkey Madness 2 will give you access to the demonic gorillas to fight as Black Demon tasks. And in addition, you'll have full access to Atoll. The monsters here won't attack you. You'll be able to go around even without using a Monkey Gree. You'll also be able to make your way back into Crux Dungeon, which is usually used during Monkey Madness 2. And this is where you're going to be able to make your way through the puzzle and get access to the Monkey Madness 2 tunnels, which are famous for the crazy amount of monkeys that you'll be killing with Burst, Barrage, or Chins, or really any kind of AoE that you might have. Remember that the Mage Relic gives you AoE just by default. So this can be an excellent way to get your Mage training up, your defense training up, your hit points up. Just make sure you bring a light source and be careful not to run out of prayer down here. You may also want to turn your sound off because those monkeys make a lot of noise. Down here, you'll also be able to hunt maniacal monkeys. This is a pretty AFK way of getting your hunter up, although there are plenty of other hunter methods in Kandarin between the Feldip hunter area and the Piscatoris hunter area. And absolutely infamous 2 leagues, you'll also have access to the Atoll agility course. Completing 2,000 laps and getting the Prince Monkey backpack has been a master task, and while I sincerely hope it is not coming back, you should probably expect to at least spend some time here. And so at this point, I know a lot of you are thinking, well, I hate demonic gorillas, I hate the Atoll course, I don't really want to do Kraken. Kandarin sucks, huh? And I'm going to let you in onto a little secret. Get close, because the Kan-deniers don't want you to hear this. You can just not do those tasks. There's nobody watching. You're not going to get in trouble. If a task is really garbage and you don't want to do it, you can just not do it and skip it. Every region has a bunch of super grindy, long tasks that aren't a lot of fun to do. And while Kandarin is probably the worst, that doesn't invalidate the whole zone because of a couple bad tasks, because you really don't have to do them. The rest of the tasks are plenty easy on their own. Last Trailblazer, I went with Kandarin, and I got Rune, and I didn't do like any agility here, okay? And I know plenty of people who got Dragon, and they didn't touch this course either. Especially now with static thresholds, you're going to know exactly what tasks you have to do to hit Rune or Dragon, and most importantly, what tasks you can actually afford to skip. So you can very easily go through your route and say, hey, I'm not going to do the Atoll courses, and that just means I have to do these instead. It was a lot worse when it was percentage based because you never knew what everybody else is doing, so you kind of did have to do everything just to try to like stay ahead of the pack. And honestly, that only even matters if you're even going for Dragon Cup. I know a lot of you might not even want that. So if going for high points isn't even your goal anyways, then it's like, then who cares about having these bad tasks that like you don't even want to do anyways? And that's just something you should think about in general when you're deciding where to go with leagues. Do what you have fun with, okay? Because you don't get Dragon by picking the best region with the most points, with the most optimal gear. Honestly, you get Dragon simply by picking stuff that you actually enjoy doing. Because most people just burn out because they chose regions that aren't fun for them. And even if your zone has something that's not fun, maybe you don't like doing Wintertodt and Zaya, just skip it, okay? Who cares? It's not that big of a deal. Now, I probably wouldn't like skip doing Chambers of Zarek if you're going Zaya. That's probably a big one. But for these small tertiary skilling tasks, it's totally fine. I'll give you permission this one time, okay? You don't have to do monkey laps. You don't have to do demonic gorillas if you don't want to. Okay, and this is actually kind of new to Leagues 4. Unlike the last Trailblazer League, you will also have King's Ransom auto-completed. And while this means that you won't be able to get the incredible experience from Holy Grail, you will be able to have access to Chivalry and Piety, the melee prayers, simply with just Kandarin. Before you needed Kandarin and Asgarnia, and that's why kind of melee was built around these two regions. But now with just Kandarin, you will have access to Piety. However, this may require completing the Knight's training waves up at the top of Camelot. I'm not sure because in Deadman mode, you had that all auto-completed. But if you do have to do this, it also gives 20,000 attack, strength, hit points, and defense experience, which is quite a nice chunk. Now, the Knight waves themselves are a bit annoying to do. The Knights will drain your stats, and that can be kind of frustrating. But if you die, you're just going to start off at the wave that you left off at, and you'll have, full health, full stats restored. You'll just start right outside here. So you can kind of just like suicide your way through this and just keep dying. And as long as you're making some progress, eventually you'll get to the end. Okay, and I know some of you are probably wondering, well, just how good is Piety? Do I need this if I plan on going melee? And here's where I just want to show you a bit of comparison just to kind of help you make your decision. So while you will have access regardless to Ultimate Strength, which gives you 15% strength, Piety is 23%, and that is quite good. Just to put it into perspective, I made 2 builds in the DPS calculator that use the Fang from the Desert, which is a fantastic melee weapon. On the left would be with Kandarin, and on the right would be with Asgarnia, which is often considered one of the most important regions for melee. And this is with just ultimate strength. However, when I add Piety to the mix, you can see that the one on the left actually takes over in DPS. And on top of that, it's a lot easier to build the one on the left. I mean, just look at it. You've got like obsidian plate legs, an obsidian shield, compared to the Asgarnia build, which uses full Torva, primordial boots. So does this mean that Piety is a must pick for your melee build? Absolutely not. It's still going to be only about a 10% damage increase, which is not going to make or break your build. However, you should at least understand what you're sacrificing, because I know a lot of people will say that Kandarin and Piety is not worth it, and then they'll auto-lock Asgarnia as one of their picks, even though the benefits from the entire gear set you get there is not even as much as Piety alone, which is auto-unlocked basically. And it's not like Asgarnia doesn't have its problems either. You're going to have to fight Kriara, which can't be fought with melee. If you have the Desert, you would have the Whisperer, which can't be fought with melee. Even Nex might be kind of difficult with melee compared to the vast majority of people using range there. And plus, you got boring bosses like the Mole too, okay? So it's not like Asgarnia is this perfect haven for melee just because it drops a lot of fancy gear. So as always, my tip here is going to be pick the content that you enjoy doing, but don't let somebody convince you that Piety is not worth it because you have ultimate strength. It is a good upgrade. And finally, you'll also have Swan Song unlocked, which will give you access to Piscatoris, and this is handy for fishing monkfish. This can be found just north of Fairy Ring AKQ. And the questing doesn't stop there because Kandarin is absolutely packed to the brim with lots of quests that you can do for a lot of different rewards. So if questing is something you like, personally, I love doing that because you get all of the boosted XP multipliers on top of just finishing the quest and trying to get like an optimal route while doing all your tasks. This can be a wonderful choice for you. However, if you hate doing quests, you should definitely consider not going Kandarin because there is a lot of them. And there's just way too many for me to go over, but it's freaking Kandarin, so we're just going to do it anyways. With just Kandarin unlocked, you'll have access to Big Chompy Bird Hunting, which allows you to start hunting Chompies. Remember that these are benefited from the minigame bonus going up to 8 times, so the Chompy tasks are actually going to be a lot more manageable this leagues. Don't feel scared of doing them. You also get the Clock Tower, which basically gives you nothing. Eagle's Peak rewards some hunter experience. However, you will not need this in order to box trap Chinchompas. You'll get that by default. Everyone will have access to chins as well as box traps from general stores. Fight Arena awards a hefty sum of attack experience, and the monsters are safe spottable. Fishing Contest gives some great fishing experience, and it's a very easy, 5-minute quest to do. Haziel Cult gives some thieving experience, another easy quest. Monk's Friend gives some early woodcutting experience. Observatory Quest gives some crafting experience. The Path of Gluffrey, this is new. It gives you 30,000 strength, 20,000 Slayer experience, as well as 5,000 Thieving and 5,000 Magic. And remember, this is all boosted by the experience multipliers. You're probably going to have like 8 times or 12 times when you're doing these quests. So if you just wanted to napkin math, just add a 0 to all these numbers to get like a 10 times multiplier basically. And that's how much experience you're roughly getting from doing these. And yeah, 200k Slayer experience is a good amount. This also gives you access to the Poison Waste dungeon, so you can fight warped creatures there and get your warped scepter. Plague City gives some early mining experience, as well as the teleport to Artie spell. Freeing Pirate Peak gives you a variety of early game experience. Freeing Scratch also gives a bunch of early game experience. Sea Slug gives over 7,000 fishing experience, and this is an insane amount of fishing to get early. Sheep Herder is pretty garbage, okay? This quest sucks, I'm sorry. Temple of Icove gives over 10,000 range experience and 8,000 fletching experience. Now, typically you might need like a U longbow in order to actually do this quest. However, there's a little trick that you can do when fighting the fire warrior that requires that. Basically, as long as you have ice arrows like equipped in your quiver, you can actually fight him with any kind of range style. So what you might want to do is just bring the ice arrows and then like some steel knives or some black knives or something, and then just throw that at him to kill him. This way you can completely bypass the 40 range requirement to even do this quest, and you can start off your account with a fat 10,000 range experience bonus that's multiplied by whatever your multiplier is. You will also need limpwort roots, and you can get these from hobgoblins, which are found under Trinome Village. The Tower of Life gives you creature creation access, and there's usually some tasks assigned there. Tribal Totem gives some thieving experience. The Waterfall quest gives almost 14,000 strength and attack experience. And with an 8 times multiplier, this quest alone will get you to level 50 attack and level 50 strength, which can really speed up your early combat. I know that I'm going to be doing this right from the start, like in the first hour or 2 of the game. That way I have crazy melee stats and I can do a lot of the early game combat tasks, get those all done because I have just crazy melee stats. I didn't have to do any of the training in Lumbridge to get there. 50 attack is also what you need to equip the Ancient Staff. So if you're planning on running magic anyways, this is actually a really great way to get your 50 attack out of the way. Zogre Flesh Eaters gives some ranged fletching and herblore experience. And the quests don't stop because with Ascarnia, we'll also be able to complete Biohazard, which gives us some thieving experience. The Corsair Curse, which gives you the Corsair Cove. Dwarf Cannon, which gives you the Dwarf Cannon. The Hand in the Sand gives 9,000 crafting experience. That's a very healthy chunk. And this is also required to access the rune store in the Wizards Guild. You'll also be able to free the Mountain Dwarf for some cooking and Slayer experience. You'll be able to free the Lumbridge Guide for some cooking and magic experience. And again, all of these Recipe for Disaster subquests will also give you progress towards unlocking the better gloves. You won't be able to get Barrow's gloves, but you should be able to like get Mithril gloves by doing all these. Scorpion Catcher, which gives over 6,000 strength experience, and you'll also be able to do the Bar Crawl, which should unlock like the Barbarian Agility training area. Troll Romance, which gives 8,000 agility experience. That's quite a bit. And additionally, with the Fremenic, you'll be able to do Between a Rock, which gives 5,000 defense, mining, and smithing experience. You'll also be able to do Forgettable Tale, which gives 5,000 farming and 5,000 cooking experience. And you'll be able to do the new Land of the Goblins, which gives 8,000 agility, herblore, thieving, and fishing. That is quite a bit of experience for one quest. If you have my beloved KDA, Kandarin, Desert, and Ascarnia, you'll also be able to do the Slug Menace, which gives some crafting, rune crafting, and thieving experience, but will also give you access to Proselyte Armor, which is often used as the best prayer bonus in the entire game, so you can just camp while you're AFK. And finally, if you have Kandarin, Fremenic, and Mauritania, you'll be able to do Making History. And I might have missed some, but I think that is just about everything that you get with Kandarin. Keep in mind that some of these are auto-unlocked if you unlock other zones. So for example, the Waterfall quest as well as the Temple of Icove are both auto-unlocked if you unlock the desert, because that gives you desert treasure too. Luckily, the Old School RuneScape wiki does have an updated quest guide that should show you all of the required regions for every single quest, as well as what will auto-complete that, just so that you have the full information. And if you do want to get those experience drops from some of these insane quests, you can order correctly so you don't accidentally auto-complete a quest that you actually planned on doing yourself. Whew, I hope you like questing, because if you made it through that section without quitting, we've got a couple other stuff to talk about. With Kandarin, you'll get the iconic beach of Catherby. This is the go-to spot to get your fishing up. And I can't wait to ask people's fishing level while I'm here. While we're talking about fishing, you'll also be able to get the Fishing Guild, as well as the Fishing Trawler minigame over in Port Khazard. This does get the boosted minigame drop rates, so getting your angler set is going to be a lot easier. Don't stress too much about that. Catherby Beach also has a fruit tree patch. In fact, there are 3 fruit tree patches in Kandarin. There's also going to be one over at the Tree Gnome Stronghold near the Spirit Tree, as well as another fruit tree patch right outside the Tree Gnome Village. So yeah, 3 fruit trees. That is a lot of farming experience that you can get every single day. And farming is not a very easy skill to get done in leagues. You typically have to have some kind of game plan to do. Oh, while we talk about farming, you'll also have an allotment and herb patch here in Catherby, as well as another allotment and herb patch just outside of Artie. You can use your Artie cloak to teleport to the Artie farm. I think you get like 3 or 5 teleports per day. And then once you have the elite diary completed, you get unlimited. So yeah, another great teleport by doing the Artie diary. Artie itself has a number of skilling methods. To train thieving, you'll have bakery stalls, silk stalls, and of course Artie Knights. These guys are one of the easiest ways to train your thieving, and you can kind of just turn your brain off and just click them. And you'll also be able to do the Artie rooftop agility course, which is one of the fastest sources of marks of grace in the entire game. So getting your graceful outfit is going to be not a problem whatsoever if you have this course unlocked. Now I mentioned the Barbarian Outpost earlier, which means you'll have access to Barbarian Assault. This does get the minigame bonus, so getting your points and your rolls done here. So getting your points and leveling up all your rolls is going to be a lot easier with that bonus. This is also how you can get your Fighter Torso, which is quite a powerful melee plate body. And personally, I like Barbarian Assault. I know some people probably hate it, but if your defender is good and they don't just drop food all over the place, it's actually kind of fun, okay? Now, we talked about the Barbarian Agility course. This will require the bar crawl, which has you kind of running around and getting all the bars. This is just an easy early game source of agility experience, but you'll probably very quickly, level past it. Now, over by Auto God Bless, you'll be able to do Barbarian training, which will give you access to Barbarian fishing. This is one of the fastest ways to train your fishing in the entire game. And you're also going to be getting some extra agility and strength experience while you do this. So honestly, screw the Barbarian Agility course. This is where you want to be getting your early agility levels from. This is also how you'll be able to make Barbarian Hostas. If you wanted to make a Zamorak Hosta, that would require the Zamorak Spear over from the God Wars dungeon. And then that could be combined further with the Hydra's Claw to make the Dragon Hunter Lance. So that would require Zaya, Kandarin, and Asgarnia to make the Dragon Hunter Lance, but it is possible. And there's plenty of other training methods throughout Kandarin, such as like the Gnome Agility course. I'm just trying to focus on, the more important, impactful ones that you're probably going to be doing for like more than half an hour. Now, just south of West Artie, you'll have access to the ZMI altar or the Arania altar. And you can see it just off in the distance there. It typically requires a bit of a run to get all the way over there while running past these monsters. However, with leagues, we can use the last recall to really speed things up. And this is because the Orania altar gives you 70% extra experience when crafting runes. So you're getting a lot more experience than you would on a typical altar. And basically the idea is that we're only going to have to run there one time. Then we're going to teleport to a bank, and our last recall will save the ZMI altar as the location. And then we'll just deposit all the runes we got, grab some more rune essence, last recall back, and continue crafting runes. Don't forget that they have announced how last recall works, and to have no cooldown and make rune crafting broken like this, you will need 1800 total level, so make sure to get that, and then you can really abuse this to get all of your rune crafting done, get a ton of runes, and really it becomes a very free and easy skill. Alright, and just south of Fairy Ring AKS, you'll have access to the Feldip Hills Hunter area. This is great for access to red Chinchampas, which are not only a fantastic hunter experience, but also a great way to train your ranged. Again, you'll be able to use these over at the Monkey Madness 2 tunnels to just hit 9 monkeys all at once, get a lot of AoE damage, train your ranged at like insanely fast rates. There's a number of red chin spots in this area. Just try to find one that's not packed. And remember that the only place that has access to red chins is going to be Kandarin or Tiranwin over in Prif. Also, if you do have access to both, you'll be able to do the Western Provinces Diary, which I mentioned earlier, and then you'll get like the secret red Chinchampa area. And there's not going to be a lot of people there. So that's like completely free if you do happen to go for both of those regions. And don't forget that in the Piscatoris area, there's also 53 Chinchampa spawns. These are the gray chins. So like the Isle of Souls does have gray chins, but it's not a lot. If you go here, you're going to be able to get all of your hunter done so much easier. And finally, with Kandarin, you will be able to access the Mist Guild. However, this will also require the Fremennik to have Dragon Slayer 2 completed. Now, I already went over this in the Fremennik deep dive, so I'll just quickly go over some of the features. But this is where you'll be able to recharge your Amulet of Glories, your combat bracelets, and your skills necklace. And this is also where you'll access the Wrath altar, which gives you Wrath runes. There's also a bunch of dragons downstairs, so if you wanted to kill those for tasks, those are available. Okay, and I think that's just about it for Kandarin. I think we got everything. I'm sure I probably missed some stuff though. I know I didn't really talk about like Castle Wars, for example, but I don't think you're going to be spending that much time over there. But hey, if you want to, I mean, you do you, champ. I unapologetically support Kandarin. I think that this is a fantastic region. It was by far the most popular region in the last Trailblazer for a really good reason. And a lot of people count it out for like the bad tasks in the end game, ignoring all of the amazing benefits it gave them in the early game. It's like that friend that always had your back and then you leave them when you got famous, okay? So don't forget about Kandarin. This zone is absolutely cracked. Whether you're going for Mage to get your Occult and your Tormented bracelet, maybe you're going for Melee to get Piety, or maybe you just want to run 2,000 laps around Atoll. Regardless, I hope you guys consider Kandarin, and I hope this deep dive gave you some more information about the real value of the zone. I've been working on this one for quite a while, so I'm really excited what you guys think. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.